We're good? Okay, we'll call the Parks, Recreation, Leisure Activity meeting to order.
Where's Jackie? Needs to keep minutes.
Beautiful day out there, I think plus 16. Don't have a big agenda, but we'll get started. So, as ready, decorations or conflict of interest?
None.
None. May I have approval of the agenda, please?
Good.
Good. And the adoption of the minutes from October 4th, 2021.
Yes.
Moved by Kevin, second by Lana. Thank you. Business arising from the minutes?
None.
Seeing none. We'll move into reports. Frank, are you ready to go?
Yeah, who approved the agenda there?
We did.
Yeah. Fair enough.
It was Councilor Ramsey and Councilor Yankow.
So we have a draft commemorative naming policy and application form. That was in everybody's package. Frank, I assume?
Yes, it's sent to everybody.
Bobby, do you have a copy?
I got the draft there last week, I think when you sent it in, so.
So was it changed any, Frank, since last week?
No.
No. Okay. You want to go ahead and speak on that, Frank?
All right. All right, so this was something I was asked to do last meeting, and I looked at a couple of 3 or 4 different policies. The mayor had got a copy of Stratford's, and I took some of their content from theirs.
Oh, good.
Incorporated into it. I also, there was one from Halifax and 2 other communities, so I incorporated them in as well. And then also used sort of the process and the template that we use the city for developing our policies. So as noted the last time, we're sort of the originating department of this, but it very likely will be housed underneath another department, whether it's communications or administration. And Peter and I have been discussing that. It probably could be under communications because it sort of relates to the naming of assets and whatnot, which that policy is underneath their branding policy. So you'll see the first statement, and I'll just go through it very quickly. There's the policy statement, which is sort of saying what the actual assets are they're going to be naming. It's the overall general statement. And it's just an opportunity to recognize and honor individuals and groups of individuals that have made significant contribution to the city, province, or Canada. And it's to provide a consistent and effective process with respect to naming municipal-owned streets, land, buildings, including commemorative namings after a persons, tradition bearers, historical event, topographical feature, or native flora or fauna. So you'll see now the purpose is sort of what the actual direction it's providing us, and it's a focused direction on all commemorative requests, so we're just not willy-nilly going and naming things randomly. It's a standard and official approach to naming city assets. It's a clear, effective, and timely naming process, and a legacy of naming city physical assets after outstanding individual events and natural features. So the eligible municipal assets are there, and it includes streets, buildings, parks, park features, or other municipally owned assets or infrastructure. You'll see all the definitions, and I'm not going to go through all them. There's quite a list there.
Yeah.
And tried to sort of make just everything that we talked about. The one area we talk about here that I'll just mention, tradition and tradition bearers. I kept that as a broad term, so it's actually tradition bearers mean any individuals who carry the tradition of a group of people through their art, customs, or words, and tradition is sort of an offset of that. But just to give an idea, so it could include Indigenous people, could include the Acadian community, could include other types of Irish settlers, those kind of things.
Yeah.
Frank, if someone wanted to do a memorial bench, someone passed away and somebody wanted to have a memorial bench in a certain park or a certain area, that doesn't have to go through here.
No, so there is the Memorial Bench Program,
Right.
which is through Public Works. All requests come in through Public Works, and then they divvy them out if they're in a park.
So how do when it goes through Public Works, how do they decide where it goes?
Well, there's an application process. So
Okay.
people put in, say, suggested they want it on the
Okay.
street, they want it in a park. And let's say if it's down in Victoria Park, we identify a location if possible, or if there's no other locations in that area, it might be, okay, we'll recommend another
Sure.
location.
So there is an application process.
There's an
for the
application
memorial
process,
bench,
yes.
And there's a cost too, like
There is a
2,000
cost.
to 2,500.
Yes, so that's,
cheap.
and the bench gets actually named right after them. It gets put, a plaque gets on it.
And the 2,500 lasts for,
I'd have to
Like
look
the
at the
bench.
policy, 10 years?
The life of the bench.
Yeah, I think it's 10 years.
10 years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
10 years?
years. Because usually after 10 years, the bench requires major overhaul and upgrades.
okay. Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah. Frank, if I go to Stratford, they said it's forwarded to the Accountability and Engagement Committee. So in Stratford, they have an Accountability and Engagement Committee, and then it goes to council. So we don't have an Accountability and Engagement Committee, but we do have a Planning Committee, and planning does take any street names, road names, it goes through them.
Yeah, so that's where it would go through them. Having said that, Public Works would still be involved because it's actually a street,
Yeah.
so they communicate with them. With street naming, it also has to go through the 911 process as well
Yeah.
to make sure there's not repetitive names and whatnot. So that's a bit of a process for a street.
Already.
Recently, we've had a renaming of it wasn't a street, yeah, I guess it was, at Victoria Park, 4B Kennedy Way,
Yeah, 4B
and that had to
Kennedy.
go through that process. It came to our committee because it's actually in the park.
Yeah.
And then it went through the process of going to planning, Public Works, and then was able to be renamed.
Yeah.
If it was with regards to, say, Parks and Recreation, it would come to our committee, and we would make the recommendations with regards to a park feature or a park, and then it would go back.
And I think one of the changes that I'd asked for, I assume it's in here, Frank, was normally when the standing committee makes a recommendation, it goes to council. And something like this, and probably a lot of the advisory committees should too. It should go to a committee of the whole or a special meeting first, because you're talking about people's names. If you have councils that don't agree, you want to have that person's name in the public forum. So
Yeah.
we've asked to have this go to all of council,
Yeah.
have the discussion, and then from there you can go to an open meeting and have your vote. But I think fairness, when you're talking with the public names, that you probably should have a in-camera session.
Oh, yes,
To get
for
everyone-
sure.
yeah.
Yeah,
So-
that's,
But
So-
CAC doesn't do that when they make recommendations for different bodies. It just goes right to the council meeting.
right, but when CAC discusses those names, it's in
But, and this will be discussed with each committee. But I'm saying is to take another step. You probably should go to it. So once that committee makes a recommendation, there's only 3 or 4 councils on it. It should go to all of council to have that discussion.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to have that discussion in a public forum. Well, Jackie, Jackie this or Jackie that in a public forum. So I think go to a committee of the whole, and then from there,
Yeah.
What
So-
about
so
Council
under-
Bernard when it's at the committee level? Should it be in camera during that?
Names?
if you bring up people's names, then
Oh, yeah.
it's in there under where
It's
decision
under
has been made.
Section 119 of the
Yeah.
MGL.
So under section 8, Chair Bernard and
Yep.
I think so that's where I actually indicated. So you'll see 8.1, 8.2, then it talks about 8.3, the department manager forwards a recommendation to the standing committee. Then the standing committee will forward a recommendation to a special meeting of council for the
Perfect, so
consideration.
that's the extra layer that we just.
And then it'll go to council.
Just for, then it's fair to everybody.
And what I like about it is that it's public works, there's planning,
Yeah.
parks, so there's collaboration amongst the departments. But I think when we do come up with a final policy, we should have it vetted. I don't know if Tina has any ideas through legal, just to make sure all the Ts are crossed, the Is are dotted, that we are covering all the bases so we don't get into some legal issue over this. Because this is a legal document when it's approved by council.
Well, it's really a policy for us to follow, is all
Yeah,
it is.
yeah.
It's not really a legal document, it's a policy for the.
Well, a policy that we use is a directive for
Yeah.
naming.
Yeah.
It's
But
not,
I-
so it's not a
I'm not sure
bylaw,
there's anything that's,
but it is a policy which guides us, so it is something that.
it's a guiding policy.
Yeah. So if there was a change to it, it would have to go to council to change that if something came in there.
And it's great that, that it goes to closed session when you're discussing person,
Yeah,
people's
I think
names.
so, yeah.
Because, as you said, Chair, too, like sometimes you don't want their name up there and somebody might say something in the wrong time and all that, so it's not fair to anybody. So I think I agree with that, behind closed doors.
So
and
just,
then take it in.
just one item I want to bring your attention to. So the criteria for commemorative naming. So just sort of have a look at that. 5.1, to be considered for commemoration, at least one of the following criteria must be met, and it lists a number of criteria.
Okay.
Then it also talks about gifting. If an individual may be recognized for a significant financial contribution to a building or other item. And they still have to go through this process. And I'll use, for example, the Parkman Soccer Complex. where we received the land at a really reduced rate.
50% off, yeah.
And then there's also, with regards to duplication of asset naming, that there shall be no duplication of names within an asset category. So, you know, if the name's already taken, and that's to avoid confusion. And then with regards to street naming requests shall only be considered if they apply with the City of Charlotte's road naming guidelines. So there is a document that planning uses that has been passed by council.
Okay.
So, and then asset renaming, if you go into there as well, same thing with street naming, it has to follow the guidelines. All other renaming requests will be considered, and there's steps there as well. You know, for example, if an administrative name, if something's called Heather Avenue Park, you know that it was named after a street. A park was named after a street, so that's an administrative name.
Yeah. So I think, Frank, from here, I think you're recommending that when someone comes in and wants to apply, they would probably go to comms will have the application filled out and then send it to the proper committee, depending if it's a street to look the name or a park to look the name or whatever. Does that make sense to everybody?
Start off, yeah, good.
Yeah. Okay.
So
And
right
if-
now, if the committee's okay with this as is, I will forward it on to communications for them to look at their next meeting and see if there's any tweaking of it, like, you know, a little tweaking of words or whatnot. And then it would be brought forward through them to council.
Anybody have any other questions on it?
Timeline, what are we looking at? Month?
I'm just trying to think when comps meet HR.
HR?
On comms, yeah.
It's on tomorrow.
Okay, so I don't know whether they'd be able to get
So
this
they'll
on
probably
the
come to the
tomorrow.
November meeting.
We have a communications meeting tomorrow?
No, CAC, it's tomorrow morning.
Oh, CAC.
CAC.
That's right. No, there's HR.
HR now? I don't know if I've heard that.
Geez, I don't have that mic on
I
there.
don't think so.
HR tomorrow?
If we can get it to the next HR meeting, HR communications, if it's possible.
Yeah, that's what I want to push it through because we do have a few potential requests. And
Yes.
we want to get something in place. We want to also make sure we got something in place that's going to help guide and direct us.
So I think we could say it'll be at the November's council meeting.
Maybe.
Which is next week.
Which is next Monday.
So
it might not be.
has communications already met?
No.
Done?
Yeah, so I'll attempt to send it to them, see if they can get on their agenda. It's tomorrow.
Yeah.
There's a few odd number series we'll have it as items.
Well, would I go through, would it be comps would have to bring it since if we're talking like
You mean not?
communications?
No, I mean 25 hours.
Communications reports to HR.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. There's another committee, 4 committees, great.
Everybody
Under
good?
new business, yes.
Bobby, you good? Okay,
Yes, I am, Jerry, thank you.
thank you. All right, next is the verbal update on the 2021 capital projects.
I thought that was in camera.
Verbal update of 21
This is
capital
just a
projects.
verbal, yeah, just
This
kidding.
this is the update.
Sorry, just kidding over here.
You're thinking capital budget.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I read them all.
Okay, Frank.
Frank, you didn't bring enough files.
Trying to make sure I have all the background information with me.
Here's the mayor going into their envelope files.
I don't have stuff
I know what it
memorized.
is.
Go ahead, Frank.
So what I'm just going to do, since we're getting near the end of the season here, I just want to sort of let people know where we're at and which ones have been completed and which ones haven't. So if you have your list,
I have it.
done, you can follow along. The Centennial Park pathways, phase 2 has completed and phase 3, so that is done, and I think it looks excellent.
And we meet budget too, or did we go over a little bit?
We went over on the phase 3. It came in
For the
because of the,
Centennial Park.
yeah,
Okay.
the accessible ramp and also
That's all done, isn't it?
it is all done. Yeah, it went slightly over, but it was also
Not
due.
too much.
Yeah, we were able to get a budget transfer.
Yeah.
So it does look great with a lot of trees in there too, so that upped the cost a bit. The J. Frank Macaulay bridges are done, except for a small change order that we're extending the sides a little bit for, because there's areas that potentially someone could slide or go off the side. Then we're going, the J. Frank Macaulay Park pathway, we'll be requesting that, the pathway restoration would be a carryover. Hermitage Creek Trail.
Wait now,
development.
what was that again?
The Frank Macaulay Park pathway restoration, so the path that goes now connects to the bridges.
Yes.
Those are getting in poor shape. They were in our budget this
I
year.
thought they were just paved a couple of years ago.
No, they were paved, probably 12 to 15 when they were done.
So the pavement that goes from Belmont down past Terry's house to the park, then that must be the new one, it was just done a couple of years ago.
That would be all that pathways through there. There's a fair bit of pathway. It is not very stable because the park itself is low, but we've done the bridges now. We've got them all upgraded, so we know the elevation of them, so.
So will you be doing it this year?
Not this year, no,
Okay,
no.
so that's
We had-
55,000.
It's actually, well, 120 was budgeted there for that, so we were looking for partnership funding. We might make application again to try to find partnership funding.
Okay.
So Hermitage Creek Trail Development, the platform restoration there, the old platform, that's in progress. That we're going to be getting the old one removed, and we're putting in a floating dock system. So I've got all the docks all purchased and everything. We just need to deal with the environment to get it removed, the existing system, and then get it in place.
So the one that's there now is not a floating dock system.
It's a permanent structure for the most part on the land, but a bit in the water, and it is slouching into the water, and it's past the end of its life.
So when you say the new one's gonna be a floating dock system, does that mean it comes out in the winter months?
No, it can stay in year round. This one can, because it's a creek, that it would just actually lift and go back
You're
down.
using easy docks?
It's an easy dock system,
Okay.
yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it
Okay.
is, yeah, so, and we actually have an accessible kayak canoe launch there that we're gonna hook to it.
Yeah.
That will allow them
Perfect.
to
That's the one down by Showtime Rural, right?
Cheryl Demerle, yes. Yeah. So if everything goes, that'll be done. We have the Andrews Pond Trail development upgrades. That's in progress. Should be done here over the next 2 to 3 weeks.
Frank, are you using pea gravel on that, or are you using,
We're using a mixture of, say, shale and pit run on one section, and then the other would be crushed asphalt if it's away from the waterways. We're using, because it compacts and it keeps
okay. So
keeps
the-
weeds from growing up. The pea gravel or crushed ash or the rock dust tends to wash away very easily.
So when that gets put down, does it get rolled?
It does get rolled, yes.
Perfect. Okay.
Then we have here the Acadian Trail development. It's in progress. We've been working with Cycling PEI on that.
Acadian Trail Development.
Yeah, that's an Acadian Trail, the Acadian Forest.
I thought they finished that.
Yeah, so they've been working on that, and we're just doing a few
Looks great.
finishing up.
You're not making new trails, you're just,
No,
you're
just-
just top coating the trails that were
The
there.
existing ones. There was some sort of trails that have been just road trails have been developing, and we're trying to minimize those and identify the actual existing
Well,
trails.
thanks to Mark Steele and Heidi McLeod and all that group that are working on it.
They've
Great
been
job.
excellent. Yeah,
Great job.
Nancy said they've been great to work with, and they've been really, really keen and passionate, which is great.
Okay,
And then we go to the Victoria Park Shoreline Protection.
Yes.
We're waiting for the ICIP funding on that, so that'll be a carryover. Ellens Creek Platform Restoration, that work is underway. They've just had a delay in some material they've been trying to get here, so that will be anticipated.
Frank,
by
I
the
was
end of
up
the month.
yesterday, when, they start today? Because there was nothing there yesterday, it's the same old platform.
Well, they
Starting this
removed,
week?
they removed a section,
Oh.
and they didn't want to remove the actual railings to the ramp and whatnot until they had this other material in.
Okay.
So they're getting actually now piles to actually support the,
what time is it, just out of curiosity, what time is the gate usually closed for that, when it was open?
the gate for,
Floating dock at Victoria Park?
Victoria Park one. It closes at dusk, so it depends, it would change now. So it would be now closing around 6:37.
Any issues?
Yeah, it's not closed. I was out there at dark the other night, 'cause people come and go, it's after dark.
Okay,
And then I thought that, if I wanted to wait to see if they're climbing over the gate, but no, the gate's just
Okay.
open and they're closed behind them. Anyway, it's coming out now.
Yeah, well, and it, well, yeah, it will be coming, well, no, so that one there will be coming out in the next week or two, that one still. So I'll speak with staff, it'll probably have a changeover, we don't have our evening crew on anymore, so it might have just, they probably closed
Missed
it.
that lock.
Well, if we don't have a crew on, it's pretty hard for them to lock it, so
Okay,
that could have been what happened.
okay.
All right, so then we go to do the Victoria Park batting cage has been done, it looks great down there. The Queen Elizabeth Park pathways, there was a few deficiencies left to be done. They are completed, they were done. Wrights Creek Bridge replacement, the work is well underway. And it's anticipated that all of it will be done with the exception of a carryover for the asphalt. There's an asphalt surface on the roadway portion of it, but because the weather is cooling down here and the bridge is elevated, they don't want to potentially do the asphalt surface on it and it not adhere properly.
So Frank, can I ask, you know, when I go through the pedestrian underpass on St. Peter's Road, that goes into that health and nature trail, correct?
Roots for Nature and Health, yeah.
Are we going to upgrade that? Is that already been done, or are we planning to do something on that?
That's one of the ones, yeah.
You just talked about.
Yeah, so that's one of the ones that's happening this year.
Are you looking at paving, did you say?
Oh, no, that would be, no, that's a natural pathway, so that would be updated with with a pit run and crushed asphalt.
And will
Right
that-
from St. Peter's straight through to, we're doing a place where it's got compacted and whatnot, so to Wrights Creek, there's a big
Yeah.
turn there where the trail got ripped out, never reinstated, so it's gonna be reinstated.
Yeah, I cycled it once and it was not the best trail to go, so I just backed off and.
What part are you talking about?
So when I go into the underpass, the pedestrian underpass, it opens up to that health and nature's trail
On the.
on the
Andrews
north
Pond
side, on the north side.
Oh, on the north side. Oh,
Yeah.
the north side is, yeah, so that'll be a section there. That is a nature pathway.
Yeah,
So it is crushed asphalt.
That should have been fine for you cycling.
wasn't,
We're
Are you
expanding.
talking about in the woods?
yeah,
Yeah, so we're expanding with another section there that's going to be upgraded with crushed asphalt in areas that have
Great.
not been done.
Great.
But having said that, it is still a natural pathways.
It is.
And you would have to have a mountain type bike. You couldn't
That's
have
right.
a, what do you call it?
I can't afford one, so I just use my own bike.
So well, you'd have to have something that has a bit of all-terrain to allow you to be able to. But it's
Beautiful area.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
So those are the two sections. One's happening on the Wrights Creek side, and the other's happening on the Andrews Pond north.
You're talking about on the south side, yes.
So with regards to Wright, so there'll be a possible carryover with regards to that for the bridge, but the bridge is anticipated to be done this year and open to pedestrian traffic. So people will be able to walk across there. We're anticipating the end of November, as long as everything works out. We have a meeting later in the week.
Do we have a name for that bridge yet?
It's called the Wrights Creek Bridge.
Just gonna say the Waste Creek Bridge.
I have a name.
All right, and then we have,
You do.
so then we're moving on to
Bernard Bridge.
Simmons capital repairs. We've just been doing some small nominal ones that had to be done, but those were minimal.
The what, Frank, sorry?
Just the Simmons capital repairs, like anything that had to be done to keep the rink open, but it's just been only if we need to. The
Frank, excuse me. My wife brought that up the other day. She'll probably shoot me for saying her name anyway. When we were at the open house that time for Simmons, how is the seating gonna be arranged? It's one-sided, all the seats, right?
Yeah, so I'll get, that's the next one right here, the
Oh, I'm
Simmons. Yeah,
sorry.
no, that's all right, Councilor Ramsey.
No,
So,
sorry.
now we're on to Simmons Replacement.
Oh,
So,
good.
We're at right here now, so right now, we're getting very near the completion of the schematic design, and it's taken a lot of sort of back and forth. We changed the design, as you probably realized, we had a walking track around the bottom, and now we changed it to be elevated. That structurally changed a lot of the building. We had to make a lot of changes with regards to seating, with regards to dressing rooms, with regards to where the players' benches was, your lines for your conduits, electrical and all those kind of things. So we had a meeting last week where we had all the engineers, the architects and everyone there sort of nailing out this final part. So we should have the schematic design within the next 2 weeks, let's say. And once we have that, I'll be bringing it back to the committee
Great.
for your review. But it is spectator seating is all going to be on one side, sort of facing Northwood Road. The dressing rooms are going to be underneath it. The spectator seating goes right down to the boards. There'll be two access points into the ice surface from behind. There'll be access points to the spectator seating as well if you need to get to the dressing rooms. Right now, we're looking at around 600 fixed seating, which would be a lot, improved from what we got right now.
That's including the warm room?
The warm room will be additional seating, so we're gonna have so many fixed seating there that'll be bar stool raised.
So the warm room was 100 seating.
That one room at Simmons?
Well, the seating would be, I'm not sure, there's fixed seating and then some that's actually standing seating.
Yeah, but in the last design, we had 100 in the warm room.
Yeah, it might have
I just
been,
wonder if that-
it
that
might have been
changed.
capacity, it might have been capacity.
It was
of 100.
capacity.
Yeah, it was capacity, so it wasn't necessarily seating, a lot of times warm rooms.
That's
so
true, that's
So we
true.
actually put fixed seating where we're elevated the warm room, so that you can see over, because before you were literally gonna have to be standing on a 6-foot stool, so we've elevated the room and actually put bar stools in there, so you can actually see down.
Well, the other thing is having the track above the ice surface. Lots of parents and those can walk and still watch the
And
game.
watch the
and watch
game,
the
or
practice
stand
over
up there
there.
and watch it too.
Yeah, so there's a lot more than 600.
Oh, yes, yeah, we're saying fixed seating.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, did they elevate the walking track into Tyne Valley?
No.
I don't believe Tyne Valley
And
has
is
a
Rusty
walking
going
track.
to, will they have an elevated track?
I don't believe Tyne Valley has one, and I'm not sure about Rustico.
Because they started the construction.
They started construction, and I'm
Fine.
not sure, that was one of the things they were
I
back
think
and
that's
forth.
one of the things going back and forth
Yeah.
in Rustico. But anyway, that's
That's trust you,
That's not us.
Looking at the end of the day, going with the elevated walking track was a decision, well, sort of that we needed to make because we seen sort of the lower level ones and there's just so many conflicts.
Yeah.
And it just,
Well, it's safer too.
yeah, much safer.
Yeah.
So, and like you said, it's a great viewing area as well.
Yes.
Now, having said all that, folks, there was an additional cost to moving it upstairs.
Oh, yeah.
So,
It's the cost of doing business.
yeah. You went to do it right the first time, right?
Yes, because you heard that from the other place.
So then just continue on here, if you just, I'll keep going. Playground equipment and park development, all the surface upgrades have been done. The new installs will not be coming in until the end of November at the earliest. So we won't be installing those this year, of course. And it's just the companies that have, that make the playground equipment, there's been a major delay in getting it delivered.
Welcome to the supply chain shortage.
Yeah, so, and that's one where stuff comes from. You know.
That's why I was saying before, it's important to get this capital budget for the city done so we can put our orders in now, because everything's behind.
It's gonna be.
And the longer we leave, I mean, the province got theirs out now, so obviously we're gonna be paying a lot more now for roads and projects to do. It's just gravy for the contractors, which is why our prices have been high the last number of years. Gotta get the capital budget done. And it should be done in November. But anyway.
Go ahead.
So then we just got Confederation Landing upgrades. The brickwork has all been completed. We did a whole bunch of repair work in there. There was a lot of areas where there was settling and whatnot, so we did that. There'll probably be a carryover for the boardwalk because of the delay in getting someone to potentially do it, and the material as well. So we don't anticipate that. That's made of just 2x4s. It's not going to be made of 2x6s. It's not going to be made of the actual marine grade lumber. Then we have the boardwalk replacement down at the Waterfront, the partnership with Charlottetown Harbour Authority. The work is well underway and should be completed here within the next couple of weeks. And it looks great. It looks amazing if you go down there.
Good.
Mulberry parking lot is done.
Oh,
Wrights Creek, Andrew Pond, okay, the trail, there was a section in there where we were doing a platform on Andrews Pond North. That got done
Yeah.
early in the year. The Winslow Soccer Complex irrigation got done. The development of a dog park in the downtown area will be a carryover, and because we're waiting for potential ownership of property. The multi-sport outdoor facility, it's pending a COA funding, so that will be a carryover.
What is?
The West Royalty Community Center multi-sport outdoor facility.
Okay.
Andrews Pond Andrews Pond dredging, that was done early in the year there, which was great to have that done. You can see the difference in Andrew Pond North, and that's an asset that we own now, so it's improved the actual water.
come in on price, 50,000.
It came in, yes.
Big difference. There's areas now that are 15 feet deep down in the original bottom. The fish ladder that they put in the back of Andrews and Barbers Pond, we're seeing a lot more fish stock than we had. Considering the pond was drained for a year. It's amazing it's how it's rebounding so quickly. So now the trail can get up and back and spawn. But the pond itself, much healthier. There's a lot more wildlife and fish habitat in there now.
The
So
whole area is just looking unbelievable, especially with the active transportation pathway, the roundabouts, it's just unbelievable. People
that's
are
what brings
positive.
people out to East Roslin.
And it's a great asset now.
Especially the south, the north side.
Yeah, well, especially, we own the north, like the biggest things, we own that pond on the north side, the city does.
Oh, the city
The
does.
city does, and we own all the green space around it, so it's a real natural asset to have.
It
The
is.
city has able to manage and control it, so, and we work closely with the Wrights Creek Watershed Group and Mr.
Yes.
Andrews as well, so.
John Henry, the crew.
So there's just a couple other ones here, so the Confederation Landing, the washroom we were looking into.
So it's not like there was nobody pushing for tenders to get out this year. So a lot of tenders that have been out, a lot of work getting done.
Yeah.
So
Federation Landing.
So the Confederation Landing, the washroom facility, we're looking at to go out to RFP for a container unit. We're hoping to order it in 2021, this year's fiscal year, and then install it next year, so that's.
we do want to see the container unit, what it looks like before we buy it.
That's what we've been going back and forth. We're trying to identify how many places out there actually have these units, so we can actually go and get them to design it for us beforehand, so that's what we might have
Because
to
the
do.
ones we see in Ontario were attractive looking, others that I've seen is,
They're hideous.
that's right.
So we'll get that. What we'll do is I'll have that for our next meeting.
So it's not a self-cleaning container?
We're not going with the self-cleaning
No.
because it was about $150,000 more.
Yes.
And it
because
really
your
wasn't,
budget- your budget
wasn't completely self-cleaning. You still had to have staff put supplies in it.
So you budgeted 200,000, but we're not spending that this year.
No, and we were hoping for partnership funding of 66, so we budget 133.
Oh.
Is there any partnership funding there at all?
No, it didn't come, well, they came back to us with a small nominal amount that wouldn't even,
$6,000 or something.
yeah, it was something. It was
Wouldn't pay the
10
doors.
grand.
Okay.
Then the other one, so the East Raleigh landfill site remediation, we've been working with CBCL and working with the province, and we're going to be having another meeting here again with regards to some fill material that have been brought out and leveled out. We are going to look at our closure plan is what we're trying to get approval on here this year, first over next year. But we're looking at potential branch trimming and some tree removal along the old roadway because it is growing in.
So this is where you come off the new bridge is being
The
built.
new bridge,
main
yes.
road.
So that's what we're looking at doing this
It's-
fall.
Yeah, it's unreal how the trees have grown up,
Yeah.
and they're right up the side of the road.
Yeah, and some of it's just like encroaching brush and whatnot. So I'm meeting with the forest environmental officer to review that and see what is the best approach. And then the East Raleigh Lagoon Park development out there, the lagoon, if you've been out there, it's been all filled in, it's starting to settle. It's been overseeded. There are a few little deficiencies we want to address before we say, yeah, we're good with it. But we're going to work on here right now, going out requests for quotes for getting a design done. So we're going to get a design done this year, and then bring it forward. Whatever remaining funds will be carried over.
So Frank, if I look at the East Royalty Landfill Site Remediation Park Development Phase 1, that's 50,000, correct? And then what was the cost to 100,000 for the East Royalty Lagoon Park Development Phase 1? There's 2 Phase 1s there in the budget I have. 100,000 and 50,000.
Well,
So-
one's the East Raleigh landfill site,
Yeah.
and the other's the East Raleigh Lagoon. So, and we've transferred some funds from the East Raleigh Lagoon to offset another account. that
For the
we need
landfill
to-
site?
No, the East Raleigh Lagoon, we transferred some money from that account this year to, I think it was for the Wrights Creek project.
Okay.
If memory serves me correctly, but there
Why
still
it a
is.
problem, Phil?
Well, you know, if I look at what they're doing in Stratford, I know it's a larger lagoon, but the work that's been going on there, like just what they're taking out and then what they have to put,
I don't think the lagoon's been larger.
you don't think their lagoon in Stratford is larger than ours in East Raleigh? But it's a major,
We had 2 cells. They had 1,
no, they have 2 cells,
although they weren't as big as ours.
but they're still working on it.
Yeah,
Are we near done?
Oh, yeah, so
It's
all,
done.
yeah, so that was, but that's
It
the
takes
biggest
a
thing.
lot.
But
Of course.
like that's been underway since that started last year.
Yeah.
And then Richardson staff, water and sewer, worked on this year with contractors to get that. So it's been quite a process of bringing the material. And they cleaned it all out and had the actual cells, the material that they were actually using for compost and whatnot.
And that contaminated soil went elsewhere, correct?
Anything that could be accommodated wasn't necessarily contaminated.
Yeah,
It
it wasn't contaminated, I mean, it's,
It had good fertilizer.
It's
So you moved it somewhere else that it could be used?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, it was dried out. A lot of it was dried out and used as fertilizer for the actual site.
Well, it's good to see that lagoon shut down, Stratford Lagoon shut down, all much better, and much better news for the development of Hillsborough River.
well, the plans for shutting these down were made years ago. It's just
Oh,
now
God, I
coming
know.
around to now, so. But anyway, Frank,
So that's all of this year's 2021. So that
Thank
gives
you
you a
very
good
much, Frank.
update on all the projects.
just, can you give us an update on how the ambassador program worked out in Victoria Park this year? Because I don't think we had an update on it.
You're testing my memory now. It did go well for the time when it ran for. They had a bit of a, coming on the end in August, there was a shortage of staff. They had 2 staff quit, and I think it ended a week or so earlier than what it was anticipated. But when it was there, it worked really well. What it ended up doing is people seeing someone out in the park, they were able to provide a great deal of public relations. It was catching, say, any potential issues early.
Yeah.
And they were being reported to the police, or they were being reported to ourselves, and we got right on top of it.
Yeah, I stopped hearing complaints, so they must have been doing pretty
It-
good.
it
The idea
just-
was just to have an ambassador, it's not to slam anybody, but it's to tell them, let them know what the rules are. So it worked out well.
It worked out well, and we looked at it coming along. So this year was sort of a pilot. We want to see how it worked. Next year, whether we actually get them to do some bylaw enforcement. There was a few issues with people, driving too fast and those kind of things, and unless you have a police officer there, so.
But we do
tobacco-free.
have, so is it the hours of this, the hours of the ambassadors and the hours of the security? One that they roll right off on security and staff, correct?
Correct, yes.
So who was locking the gate for the floating dock?
That's our own staff. No, our own staff locks that. So we have an evening staff person that comes in, and that was part of the routine, that they would lock that at dusk. So we don't have an evening staff person on now.
So security done?
Security is done. Security was done That program ran for the July and August, and into the long weekend of
That's the
September.
bachelor one, the security stuff you have.
Yes, they were done,
Weekend, I think.
Chris, would you remember?
September long weekend, I think.
Yeah, was part of it, but the citywide goes till about the end, the citywide goes to the end of September.
Okay.
Yeah.
When does the,
Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, if you don't mind?
I'll let him know if he wants to.
I just want to speak, but I said I'll wait. Thank you.
Did you tell me that?
Yes, thank you very much.
You go ahead, you take all the time you want.
Mr. Chair, thank you very much. Is the floating dock, I haven't been down the last 2 days, it's gone?
No.
No, it's actually still in
Is there a
because
date when it's gonna be
I'm
removed?
knocking on wood, the weather's been good, so we
Yes.
leave it in as long as we can.
Okay, but it's
So.
not a set date every year.
Yeah, well, it's in the range of the end of October, but this year we've been able to, keep it a bit
Just
longer.
really nicer weather.
Oh, yeah.
So, but we are watching very closely. It will be coming out here in the next week or so.
Okay, thank you.
Go
Mr.
ahead.
Chair, the reason I ask this, I keep bringing it up, Victoria Park, we're still trying to get that property, the former property, the former Prince Edward Island Hospital. Spoke to Minister James Albert at a funeral this past weekend. It's still going through the duty to consult.
We heard that, yeah.
And, I know residents, citizens are saying like, why aren't we doing something about it? Well, we can't do anything until the land is actually transferred to us.
Tell them to talk to the MLA.
What's that?
Ask them to talk to the MLA.
And I've been telling them that. But I noticed that the boardwalk that they put in the new parking lot that's behind Obin Erskine, that connects to Terry Fox, was that put in by the province?
The province put that in, yes.
So remember we've been talking of trying to put a boardwalk across from the corner of Ambrose and Brighton over to Terry Fox because it's a well-used pathway. Is that something we can look at? I know that we were concerned about how would we get the slope. Well, they did a great job getting the slope on Terry Fox Run with their boardwalk from the Owen Personal parking lot. So I'd really like to.
Yeah, so that land is owned by the province.
I know.
And I brought it up to them. It's something they could consider. There is a concern that one area is okay, it comes out onto, they have a crosswalk.
Yes.
The other area would have to be looked at, what would it connect into. So we'd be working with the province on that.
Okay.
It's something that is sort of been discussed. They've been sort of waiting for this land
To be
to happen at the same
Yeah.
time, so it's,
All right, any other questions? Anybody?
Good to go.
Okay, next, we motion to move into closed session as per section 119(1) subsection E. Matter still under consideration, Mr. McGovern. Do I have a mover?
I'll move it.
Seconder? Moved by Kevin, second by Atlanta. All in favor?
All right.
Okay, move into closed session, please.